Guys, today we have a very special show. About 6 months ago, a man slid into my DMs and he said, Pete, I want to teach you how to play chess. I want to turn you into one of the premier chess players in all of DFS. And I said, of course, Liam, let's do that. And we went on a journey together this summer, me failing miserably trying to learn chess. But one thing that came out of this was Liam turning into a best ball rock star, one who would go on to win $1,001. Today we celebrate with my chess coach, Liam Murphy.
Bro, I'm telling you, hop in these drafts when these idiot streamers are trying to draft and talk to the chat at the same time. It's so plus EV, bro.
Oh no, I think I accidentally just took Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs. What do we call that? A no-no.
No way, you don't have to set your lineup. That's incredible. And recently eclipsed 23%, and I'd much prefer it to be in the more 21 to 22% range.
There he is, the Best Ball Mania 2 champ in the flesh. Liam, how we doing, buddy?
We're doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. Excited to do this show, and it just seems fated, man. Like, you know, we were connected there. We were both in the finals. We both had big sweats, and now we're here.
Yeah, and walk me through, because I was in Miami over the weekend because I was down there with the owners club, and so I was kind of sweating down there. I wasn't at my typical battle station, so I was a little discombobulated. Where were you sweating this heading into the finals?
So I was at a bachelor party with my boys down in the Keys, and you know, like it was a wild weekend, man. Like we're like bouncing around from bars to bars, you know, like. I'm in different live finals. I was in like first in the puppy at one point, and then I got obviously the BBM2 was the one I really cared about, and just absolutely wild.
Yeah. And so because we had some overlapping players on our lineup who, obviously were key to week 17 success. For me, when I started to get excited was when Rashad Penny scored that second touchdown. Where was the moment where you started to really get excited about your chances?
I mean, so obviously we were like drinking throughout the day too. Like it's just like a wild day. And I mean, Josh Allen scores the 2 rushing touchdowns, and other than that, like scores 3 fantasy points. So when Chase starts going off, I knew I was live because there was only 10 Chase teams. I had seen your guys' team on Twitter, and I looked at a bunch of the other teams, and your team was one of the better teams that could beat me, because I knew my team was super live with the low ownership, and I knew your team was super live. And like, I didn't love seeing some of the players you guys had. I was like, I didn't love that you guys had Michelle, because that was such great leverage. You guys obviously had like the nut wide receivers compared to me. You had live quarterbacks. So like, when did I feel it was real? Like, I knew I was good in the morning games, but once like Amon-Ra and Penny start going off both for me, like I'm sitting in first. And then at the end of the afternoon games, Noah Fant scores a garbage time touchdown to like really separate me from the field.
Yeah.
And I knew he had like a good chance of having a good game. And that's when like my cousin even said, he's like, oh, now it's real. Like now was like I was in first by like whatever, like 5 points here or something, with still Aaron Jones and MBS to go and Claypool. But then Fant scores that garbage time touchdown. It's like, oh, now I'm big real.
Yeah, for sure. The Fant one was, because that was a huge thing, was can anyone separate at tight end? And there were so many Mark Andrews teams. I'm sure like Bimefor and I were pretty excited not to have a Mark Andrews squad heading into that. And so we're here sweating. We had Pitts and Hunter Henry on our team. Of course, Damian Harris was stealing some of those Hunter Henry touchdowns. But once you got that Fant TD to give you like a 10 or 11 point separation on teams like ours at tight end, that was just so massive.
Yeah, I mean, it was like it was like 16 points. I'm sitting at like 16 points, maybe even more, because I don't know if like second place had Devontae Adams or not. I don't know if those points were added in yet.
Oops.
But like I knew like Devontae and Chubb would be the big guys to fade after that. Like, and I like it was just surreal. And like I knew Gesicki like being close enough to Andrews, I felt great about.
Yeah.
And Cup not burying me, I felt great about, because that was the game obviously I was worried about, because Cup's like 50% and in a smash spot, and Andrews is just mega chalk, which tight end is not where you want to really be mega chalky in a DFS contest. But when it's free to just have Mark Andrews, I don't know if like you know.
Right. Yeah, and even just like looking, and then I can pull up our lineup here. I mean, your other huge differentiator was obviously Amon-Ra. And having him go for 30, where, we're sitting here, and this obviously was an earlier screenshot, not the updated one. For some reason I didn't pull that, but we had, Keenan. I guess we did get the Devontae Adams decent game, but just between the Keenan, CD, we just didn't have anyone kind of step up there and get us in that, 20-point range that would have thrown us into contention. When those guys all are in our lineup at 10 or 11 points, it was just going to be so tough to catch you.
Yeah, I knew that I had close to the, if not the best collection of running backs, because not only were all of them like in good spots, like Jeff Wilson was only 2 owned, and like it wasn't really clear to me if Elijah Mitchell would just come back and smash, and obviously he did. But
yeah,
I felt good about him against Houston even. So I knew I would need 3 of my running backs. Like I was running back in the flex all day was clearly what was happening for me. And then you just like the Chase and Amon, like that whole game. Like I'm in a bar at this point watching Red Zone, or the games were on the different TVs. It was just like back to back to back, like Penny, Amon-Ra. I was like, holy shit. And not to mention, like, Penny could have had 2 or 3 more touchdowns. Like, Metcalf scores.
I know.
Like,
that Metcalf was tilting.
Touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, like, Penny could have easily put up a 50-burger himself.
And that really is when we talk about correlations in DFS, in best ball, that is literally what you're hoping for. 2 guys in the same game, speeding up the game with big plays and having the 2 most important players in a game, just basically going back and forth. And to get that with Rashad Penny and Amon-Ra. What round did you draft Amon-Ra in this? So,
like, Amon-Ra, I took 1 round after Penny. So my guess is it was delivered by me. Because in this draft was in June. It looks like it's the 14th round, 13th round.
Yeah. It looks like you took Amon-Ra 15th, Rashad 14th. Yeah.
And so I actually stopped taking Amon-Ra later in the season because, and this is something that like, we could talk more about later, but I had just like, like my original selection of taking Amon-Ra was like, well, he was a high pick by Detroit. It's really not clear who the number 1 wideout is there. Maybe it's him. And so I was taking a lot of him early. But later, like I think I read like an article by Hayden Winks, which I agreed with it at the time, which was like players like, and he literally gave the example of Hunter Renfrow. Like players like Hunter Renfrow, Amon-Ra, like these slot guys, like, they probably are not going to bury you in half-point PPR. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that. I was like, you know what? I kind of agree with that. And it turned out that it played out totally different in, so that's something to like where these slot guys actually ended up crushing, literally Hunter Renfrow ended up being a smash pick on half-point PPR versus someone like, like a Deshaun Jackson or whatnot. Like,
right.
That was so unique this year.
Yeah, and I think that's also a good lesson too. And I know, it's Leone was joking about his team that made the FFPC best ball finals where he misclicked Big Ben as a 3rd quarterback, and that actually helped him advance one of the weeks. And I think that example of these guys we perceive as low upside, you mentioned the slot wide receivers, like, even just sprinkling those in a way can just help give you the floor to advance from a specific week when you're more boom bust plays, your MVS down here late, your Miami Browns, when those guys don't hit, it's nice to be able to bank 10 points from someone.
Yeah. And I mean, and also they were just like smashing in touchdowns. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so I talked about this a little bit with Eric too, but you know, the perception of most people is like DraftKings is easier, Underdog is harder, just because the pool is sharper. But what I thought was, and that's like, yeah, that's an easy thing to say, and I kind of agree with it. But I also think there was a lot more group think going on Underdog, which allowed you to, if you were just like different in different areas, it allowed you to actually kind of have a big edge. Just because if a lot of people are thinking the same thing, just like, you know, like that's natural, going to give you leverage.
Yeah. What would you say? It's funny reading your mentions because you tagged me in a tweet, then replying like you're getting just all the most bait. Well, how many lineups did you have in this contest? Is that the most common question you've gotten since winning?
Actually, no. I mean, a lot. I think me releasing the draft pool, like the most common question is like people saw I started running back, and they're like, "Are you only a running back guy? Did you ever do zero running back?" It's just like it's the obsession with the first and second round. Which, I mean, if we're being honest about how the season plays out, like whether you start running back, or wide receiver, running back, or wide receiver, literally only comes down to what happens week 15 through 17. Like if Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill both go like 50 point games for 3 weeks straight, well, clearly zero running back is the best start. And it's just so you know variant, a super high variance thing where maybe one helps you qualify more teams. Like maybe running back, or helps
Well,
you
that's
qualify.
Hertzig's thesis for sure with the hyper fragile is that and I think the data backs it up. Like you're going to advance more teams if you start, 3 running backs. The problem is most people can't take their feet off the gas once they take 3 running backs and they can't help themselves in more rounds. Whereas it's optimal to just be done with it if you're loading up with that many early.
Well, and I take it further where just trying to qualify the most amount of teams was something I tried to think about 0%. Because I believe I saw a stream between like you and Eric where one of you made the point like, we're really trying to play for first here, and I really try to take that to heart where let's say 0 running back qualifies like 50% less than the time versus like, if 8% is your expected math, let's say you only qualify 4% of the 0 running back teams. Well, let's say the playoff teams that only represents like 1% of the field or something. It doesn't, if you like, because I qualified under average for my 100 set of 150.
Me too. Yeah.
I qualified 19 out of 150, and I was weighted to 0 running back is my guess. But my teams were all super unique, and that's what matters way more than flat like qualifying. And that's how that was my belief. Like obviously I ran incredibly pure for it to like work out. But I really like, to me, especially on full point PPR, if I was just trying to qualify the max amount of teams, I would always just like wait on quarterback because like I think that's the easiest way to qualify teams. But I don't think that's the best way to win your playoff matchups, because if a Josh Allen, a Kyler, whatever, if they drop a 30-40 burger in a round, like
you're not going to be able to catch them.
You need those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that because I guarantee, I think our portfolios just in the aggregate or whatever had to have been so similar, because I think I advanced 18 out of 150 and tilted towards 0 RB, and then had with Bime4 the one very live team that was a super unique team. And it does feel validating because we could also run this, tournament 10 times, 100 times, and we don't get that one team through. That's incredibly live. But isn't that the fucking thesis of the play? That when you do get it through, because people were basically playing a cash game roster where they were all duped across like 4 or 5 of their best plays. And it's like, who's going to be your differentiator, when we came in with a lot of plays that gave us a chance to really separate from the field?
Well, and it's funny, like, even though I believe my set of 150 was weighted towards 0 running back, I think I only made 1 0 running back team to the playoffs of my 19.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, so I like I totally busted most of my late round running back guys for regular season purposes because I had a lot of like Penny, whatever, but they didn't help me get to the playoffs, you know?
Yeah.
How many did you make how many of your teams made the semifinals?
Four.
Four. So
Yeah.
I had 6 semifinals teams.
Okay.
And that was because, you know, like being way over the field on a player, I'm a firm believer that is fine if you know what you're doing. So, like, obviously, I had 60% Gabriel Davis. He scored 2 touchdowns in week 15, and that was huge. That
Yeah.
for my teams because I qualified 6 teams for the semifinals, which that now I'm like super live. And if obviously if Gabriel Davis busts, okay, I don't qualify 10 teams for the semifinals, but who cares? Like this is a top heavy contest. Embrace the variance and do high variance things. So like ways I've thought about that, and I don't want to talk like pure strategy the whole time on the show, but like maybe you just choose one. It's totally fine if you just say, you know what, I'm going to do running back this year, or I'm going to do 0 running back, whatever, for every team I do, because it's a high variance strategy. But if it works, it works. And like, I think it's different loading up on 10th round Gabriel Davis versus a first round pick, a second round pick.
I agree. I agree with that take. I also think though the thing that was unique about 0 RB this year is, and we've talked about it on ship chasing a little bit, we just didn't have those high floor pass catching backs. Normally we have the James White, the McKissick, the Nyheim Hines, where, I like building out a more textured 0 running back core where you have, a couple of those guys that can break out, say your Javonte Williams that you took in the 5th or 6th round. And then you have your Rashad Pennies and your Jeff Wilsons late, but then you have some of that floor production that get you that 7 to 8 points to keep that floor high while you're trying to advance. And then you let the chaos of the season kick in and Rashad Penny's putting up 34 points. But this year, like a lot of those James White, Gio Bernard, Nyheim Hines, like McKissick, like those guys didn't get it done. And so I think 0 RB struggled probably advancing more than it would have otherwise.
I thought this year, to me, the big difference of this year is if this year was last year draft, people like Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift, like these guys like that, they would have been first, second round picks. And so
Josh Jacobs was 2 years ago.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. And so, but like the field adjusting to letting these running back, like these guys who we used to take in the first, second round, all of a sudden are in the quote unquote dead zone, but they're still like good play, like Chris Carson. Even like I had a lot of Chris Carson and Penny and it was a simple lizard brain take as like they play Lions week 17. They like to run the ball. Like Lions suck at the run. One of them's going to smash. It was like, that was like as deep as the take was for me. But these guys were no longer first, second round picks. They were kind of cheap. And I think the ADPs next year are going to be wildly different, even more than anything we've ever seen before.
In what direction?
So my guess is that just the players on good offenses are going to get major bumps. So like if Tom Brady returns, the Bucs guys, or like, those guys maybe will not be third, fourth round picks anymore. Like people are going to think more about what offenses are going to score the most points. Like, and like fire those guys.
And we saw that to a little bit of an extent with like CeeDee Lamb, right? Like CeeDee Lamb was getting steamed so hard where his prospect profile was similar to some of those other second-year wide receivers, but he was going, late second at points just because people were like, oh, I'm getting a breakout second-year wide receiver and on the Dallas Cowboys offense where people were ready to make super big bets on those offenses.
And I also think it's going to be fascinating what happens when players like a Jamar Chase, like these guys who crushed this year and were cheap, like if Chase all of a sudden is a first round pick, what's going to happen to someone like a Steph Diggs? Where's he going to settle in after having an okay but not great season and he's kind of getting old? Is he still going to be up there? What's going to happen with the elite tight ends? Where are they going to go?
Yeah.
It was like, you could tell me Kelsey's a first round pick. You could tell me Kelsey's a third round pick right now. And I'd be like, oh yeah, okay. That kind of makes sense. But like I have no idea how it's going to settle out, and I think things are going to wildly change as they always do.
Yeah, and I know we're all excited for Underdog to get their hands and release a lot of this data for construction stuff. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun with that. On the tight end front, it did seem like obviously Andrews was a huge part of a ton of teams who advanced, but it did seem like a lot of 2 mid-tier tight ends were kind of the dominant construction, at least for in the finals this year.
Yeah, I mean, I was a believer going in to this season that if you think about it logically, elite quarterback and elite tight end is more important on half-point PPR than PPR for the simple fact that they don't get more points. So it made no sense to me why players like Josh Allen were cheaper on Underdog versus DraftKings. If you look at my exposures of my top 10 guys, like I'm heavily exposed to a lot of the top quarterbacks, except Mahomes. I thought that was too expensive. And I thought and I was highly exposed to all the top tight ends. And even though Andrews is not in my top 10, because I kind of like Hawkinson, he's over 8% still. But then you had guys like Dawson Knox, Gronk, and Dalton Schultz who crushed it too. So
I was the same as you. I think I ended up being pretty balanced on Andrews and Hawk. They were always going like back to back on that 5-6 turn all year. So I would just kind of split there. But you're right. I think we're going to have all off season to talk strategy, the new metas, the data, how that conversation is going to shift. But we do need to get into some of the fun stuff as Willis asks here. I'm sure you have also gotten this question, but you need to let the people know. I mean, right now I did see my 25K from the 8th place finish came through. Do you have $1 million in your Underdog account right now?
Yes, I do.
And it just can we get a screen? Can you give me a screen share? I want to see what that looks like up there. I need to see it. Oh, hey, I go over there. There's a little glare. Go for it. Oh wow. Hang on. We're gonna go big here. Oh, now you're in a 3-person draft.
I'm grinding.
There it is. It's a little blurry, but I take your word for it. It's $1 million. It's $1 million.
No big expenses planned. I mean, there's one point where I had anxiety about this, like I was like, holy shit, like I've never been in this situation before. I'm assuming many are like that. I mean, it was just like, it's not a secret that I won because clearly I'm on Twitter. I'm not like going to put out a Facebook status or like an Instagram post about it. But, like, I don't know. I'm just trying to meet with the right people, get advice. Probably more going to go for like investments than, I mean, like I wear Crocs, Pete. I'm not like I don't have Gucci.
All right, let me see the Crocs now. Put your feet up.
I have no desire for them. I'm on the 2nd floor. You're lucky these are up here.
Oh my God.
So I don't really like have big expenses planned, and I'm more of a experienced person over item type of guy. So like I would much rather go on a vacation and do things with people than buy a car. And so I don't know, man. I don't know about that, but I mean, some things I wanted to say was like, it's so funny if you look back at the drafts we did, or it's just like the streams we did in the summer, is we did like one of those chess streams like a couple days after I drafted the winning team, and B, if you watch the one where we actually did like the hand and brain one, I was like taking adamant stands against like league winners with like on that call. I'm like, oh no, you can't take Cup, he's not going to crush you. You can't take Burrow, he's not going to crush you. So like I was not afraid to take player stands, and I'm a firm believer in that, but I was big wrong. I was way underweight about almost every league winner. I was underweight on Taylor, Cup, Debo on Underdog, Fournette. And because I was so underweight these league winners in the regular season, that actually helped me make these unique teams. Obviously not intentional, but it just goes to show you like you can be wrong and still win.
Well, and there's also a thing too, like we can, a lot of times we'll have these strong takes of like, I'm not on this guy, but if you're drafting 150 teams, that might mean that you have 10% instead of 25%, right? Like, that's the thing. There were guys I hated that I had 10% of because I thought either they slipped way past ADP, and to kind of just get that mentality out of my head of like, yes, I have these player takes, but I'm not actually going to be able to out player take the field in the ADP. So like I can lean to a side, but I'm just not good enough to go like 0% on a guy.
So I would do that. Like I fully faded Visca. I fully faded
Well, I
Jerry
mean,
Jeudy.
there's exceptions to every rule.
No, there's good and bad. So I fully faded Visca. I fully faded Jerry Jeudy. I had 6% Taylor versus 8%, so I'm underweight there. I nearly fully faded Fournette, other than like an auto pick here or there. So that was clearly like wrong to fully fade Fournette, but it can work out. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is just you know me, I like to ask questions to you as well. How are you doing? This is your first season not with the job. How are you finding the grind of the full season and everything?
Well, the chat they want me to kick you off for your Visca slander. I mean, we've been through so many stages of grieving with Visca around here. So at this point, it's just like, keep them coming.
You were underweight on him too. I know you were not into him.
I was. I got bullied by Davis and Pat for not having more Visca.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right, turning the tables on me, which I mean, everyone already hears me talk all the time. They're more interested in hearing you talk. But no, it's been good. It's been a very fun year, and it's kind of nice to have things slowing down a little bit. I have some like, more projects and stuff I want to dive into that when the chips are flying with the season, it's just like trying to keep your head above water. And I will say just, this best ball, finish, I think there was you see the sentiment of people as the season ends and there was lots of chaos and COVID and stuff and people upset, about not winning. And, it was a year where like in regular season long leagues, you either had JT, Debo, and Cup or you lost kind of thing. And so I think there was a lot of just general morale was kind of like low as we headed towards the end of the season. So to get the wind in our sails of these, this best ball finish, and like now I'm just like invigorated, right? Like, and I know Bime 4 feels the same way. Like we're all ready to just blast off into hot best ball summer again. So it feels really good to be able to finish the season on a high note and to just kind of validate, right? Like you spent a shit ton of time on this. Bime 4 spent a shit ton of time. Me and the ship chasing guys, like we all devoted an unhealthy amount of time. So to get some kind of validation of that work, knowing that the way we build teams, like it might take us 5 years to get that validation, if not more. So to get that, I think is very nice.
I mean, but you were in the finals last year too, right?
Of the puppy, a smaller one, not BBM. Yeah. But back-to-back years with top 10 finishes with 0 RB teams, much to the haters' chagrin.
As soon as the season's over, Pete says we're doing 80 hours of chess.
Oh my God. 80. I think I told someone, I forget what I was on, that those chess streams were some of my most stressful streams I've ever done. Like I felt my chest beating, beads of sweat coming down. Like nothing made me more nerve-wracked than trying to make not dumb chess moves in front of everybody.
Well, you have to be a big man to learn in front of others, because I will tell you, it's easy to teach children things because they don't have the ego, but there would be a lot of adults who, like, it's not a question if I'm better than chess than you are, as in like to some of these adults, right? Like these people, like I could be with my eyes closed literally, but they could not accept criticism. So not only the fact that you can accept, help in criticism, but you're literally learning in front of others. Like not everyone can do that. That takes you you gotta be big to do that.
Well, I appreciate that. I did have a stretch where I literally had a calendar invite to remind myself to do these chess puzzles. And I need to get back on the horse. We got to fire up some more chess streams. I am curious on that though, too. Do you feel like, how do you think about, chess as it relates to problem solving in game theory with stuff like best ball or other, fantasy sports stuff? Do you think there's a direct corollary with that kind of thinking?
Yeah, I talked about this with Eric too, and I saw you. Someone sent me the link between you and Spags talking about it. Obviously, chess is a strategy game, and I really do believe in the benefits for not only children but adults with chess. I mean, like an obvious benefit of it is I have the ability to play speed chess, like pretty well. So like seeing tactics instantly. I'm only fast draft pretty much for me, because like the slow drafts is like a chore. to do. Like the fast drafts, I always know what I'm going to do like instantly. I'm like, okay, like I have the guys queued up where I'm just like, I'm gonna take that guy. I'm not someone who sits the full 30 seconds on the clock and makes you wait. It gets to my pick and I select them. And in one of those streams we did, I told you I did like 5 puppies at a time. And you're like, no, you didn't. Like, you did not do that well. And did I do it? Like, obviously, I'm not able to like fully look at everyone, but I can put together teams that make sense
Yeah.
with a high volume. Would I do that for BBM? No. But like obviously, like I love strategy games, and I've been playing them all my life. And just like best ball is a huge strategy game, and there's a lot of talk out there about like what's the best format, these lottery systems versus overall points. Like I like the lottery system because I feel it adds a lot more strategy actually. And like some people are like, well, it doesn't reward the best team, but when you just have to understand the contest you're playing and make your team so that they can win this lottery based system.
Right. And I never understood that, where it's like we're all playing the same contest with the same rules, and now we must optimize to win that contest. Like if your style of play lends itself to, I don't know, a higher floor style, like then play in individual 12-man leagues and,
Yeah.
win those. You can't be like, I want to win $1 million in this massive contest and then also want to be able to play like my specific style. It's like coaches who try to fit their players into their system instead of building a system around their players' strengths.
Yeah, I mean, like someone told me, like I was talking on Twitter, someone, they're like, well, I'm just trying to bank an ROI each year so I don't have, so I have my, so I don't, no risk of ruin. And I'm like, well, A, you're playing
Don't
the
play
wrong
this
contest then.
Yeah.
And B, it's getting harder. Like 2 years ago, I had a massive, advance rate. This year I did not. Like I just think people are getting better.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, this is a very fun. So Leland in the chat asks, what chess piece is Aaron Jones, the queen? How about this? How about I pull up your roster here and you compare a few of these winning pieces to actual pieces on the chessboard for you.
Okay, well, obviously Josh Allen is both the king and the queen.
Oh wow, this is
no,
Homer Liam coming through here.
Well, I mean, so the queen's the most powerful piece, but the king's the most important piece. And if I don't get those quarterback points, I don't get first. So we'll give Josh Allen the king. The queen's the most powerful piece, so that's got to be Chase. He just scored the most points.
But
it's really hard to like take this.
Yeah. Well, actually, reframe it though over the course of the entire season, because wouldn't you say like Jonathan Taylor was the queen for you most of the season?
He's the reason I qualified, I'm assuming, with this team. Yeah, I guess so. But like, we're gonna run out of content real quick with this like simple.
No, buddy, trust me. I could go 30 hours of this.
There's only a couple pieces, and then there's pawns. So like, is everyone else gonna be a pawn?
I mean, Diami Brown is a Peter Overzet pawn, one that gets sacrificed so quickly into the game it boggles the mind.
Well, but the thing about a pawn is A, they're the souls of chess. Philidor said that, and B, what happens to a pawn when it reaches the end of the board?
They become whatever you want them to be.
They could become a queen. So maybe Diami next year is going to reach the end of the board.
See, remember when you were worried that we couldn't continue this analogy, and then I immediately got us to a better spot with it?
Well, that's because we're quick-witted, Pete. But
yeah,
I don't know if I can do that with each piece.
It is, yeah. And I mean, the thing too, like you said, not only Rashad Penny and Amon-Ra in week 17, obviously, but they just really started to come on at the end of the season. I mean, Amon-Ra down the stretch was just absolutely insane. And, we were talking about like the texture of running back picks. Like you're taking cracks on guys like Diami Brown. We joked about it. He didn't work out, but it could have been just the other way around. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick could have played a full season and Diami Brown could have broke out at the end of the season and Amon-Ra could have been dust. Like there are worlds where that happens, but the type of profile in the breakout potential you're making there, it's a similar bet.
Yeah. And one thing I have to say real quick is I see my cousins in this chat, Bert DeForest. So I got to shout out the boys because I forgot to do this yesterday and I got in trouble. So shout out to Bert. Shout out to the Kittredge twins. Love you guys. And,
This is your cousin?
This is my cousin. He's a legend.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So gotta shout him out. But no, I mean, and like Amon-Ra, like if TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift are healthy, he probably doesn't get like he had like 5 weeks straight of like 12 to 10 targets. And he's doing it with like Tim Boyle. He's poking fun at someone for that.
Yeah. Also, Jack asking thoughts on unstacked teams, sir. Josh Allen to Cole Beasley. I mean, but go ahead because I would push back on this.
The biggest thing I got, and I don't like. So, I had a ton of game stats.
Correlation.
10 of my 18 players were stacked. If you think about it, Josh Allen to Beasley. That's the easy one people understand. And
well, you had a bring back with Damian Harris. Or sorry, you didn't have a Falcon, did you?
No Falcon.
No Falcon.
Although I did do that somewhat, but I thought the Bills D would be very good. So
yeah.
The Josh Allen to Cole Beasley, and Josh Allen's the exact type of quarterback who can score rushing touchdowns. And like a lot of people, I remember some people made the point like, oh, you can't take Allen if you don't have Diggs. I never agreed with that because Josh spreads the ball, like Buffalo spreads the ball more than most offenses. And this is when they were playing 4 wide receivers, but B, he scores rushing touchdowns. So of course you don't. And then my other correlation is obviously Amari Cooper and Christian Kirk. That's game correlation.
That was the game that we all circled way back.
We all love. Amon-Ra and Penny. And then Boyd and Chase, that's positive correlation. And so is Aaron Jones to MVS. That's positive correlation.
And I think that, and we've now had this conversation a lot in DFS too, where it's like, obviously the mini correlation with Penny and Amon-Ra, like that's the nuts with the two, alpha performers are just ping ponging back and forth. But also if one team boat races another team, like how many times have we seen this year, Bills or Bucks stacks win DFS tournaments not brought back because they're the one who brought the total way over and all the points were concentrated on their team. So the same correlation applies. It's just a macro correlation that's negatively correlated on a play-to-play basis. But in the macro of the game is the kind of correlation you're looking for.
Yeah. And I mean, so this is my second year of like attacking best ball pretty in depth. And like the growth of best ball is insane. Like I stumbled upon best ball on DraftKings, like last year. I knew you as the Mans, and then I found you like late winter, I believe, like as Peter Overzet. I was like, holy shit, is that Pete Manzanelli? Like I never knew like the in the beginning I didn't know about the bit and everything. I was like, I wasn't quite sure. And but what I was gonna say is last year I look at the playoff matchups and I like I care about that. And so like last year, I can give an example. I faded Dalvin Cook quite a bit in 2020 because I didn't like that he played like the Bears and like a couple other like strong run defenses or teams I thought would have strong run defenses. And that actually ended up being true. He did not have a great playoffs, but he was like a season winner in the regular season. And then, but I was looking more at like weeks 14, 15, 16. And then I was like heavy on Derrick Henry that year because they played like the Jags and other shit and like Lions. But this year, I really only looked at week 17. And I was just like, you know what? This is the only week that matters. And just hope you get a team there. And then you have the correlation if you do.
Yeah. I was with you. I was focusing on like individual correlations for week 17, but then I did like looking at schedules. Part of what gave me the confidence to be on so much Jonathan Taylor too was the Colts had an awesome playoff schedule with, 3 dome games. They played the Cardinals in week 16. They just had a lot going for them too. So I do agree with you. It's like, there's only so much you can control for, so many sole variables. But to me, it always just seemed like the best possible tiebreaker, right? Like if you're really flipping coins between these guys, well, why not try to nail the correlation? It's the same with DFS. You're not going to pick one guy over another because of correlation when they project for 5 different points. You're not going to reach 6 rounds. But if you're deciding between two guys and one happens to play your other stack or players in week 17, that seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, just like, of course, a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I would like, I was trying to, I saw someone ask, like, was I thinking about these things when I drafted? Yes, I was. But of course, sometimes I just got lucky and it would be correlation. I would like look after the fact and be like, oh, great, I got week 17 correlation. And like, I knew the week 17 games like in May. Like, you could ask me like who's playing who. As soon as that schedule was out, I knew those teams.
Of course. And again, you can talk about how that stuff can go wrong too, right? Like, you could have ended up with a Jamar Chase and Travis Kelce team looking at that KC Cincy, and then, that stuff doesn't necessarily advance, or, that doesn't hit, Tyreek Hill. If you had him on that, he did nothing, with some of those correlations. So it's just putting yourself into a position to be right. I feel like the analogy is the T.Y. Hilton touchdown from Sunday, where he's just like waiting.
Dude, that
there.
touchdown, I was like, if that cost me $1 million.
That is, what would you say about that too? Because the best ball sweat is really hard. I guess it was a little more confined with 160 teams. How many like roster watching were you doing, like trying to figure out who, before kind of you separated and had that cushion? Like, I found it to be a difficult sweat. And so I was just like, I'm going to root for my guys and just not care about anything else.
That's kind of what I did. I mean, so I'm a huge Bills fan and I watched the Bills game, and I was like, I didn't even really like check scores until like, maybe after the first quarter. And then again, I didn't check until like the second quarter. And I don't know if I was winning puppy 1 at the end of the end of the morning games.
I think I saw some kind of screenshot of that, and I probably just rolled my eyes, and I was
And
like,
my
can't
team
win both of these.
Yeah, my team was 4 quarterbacks, and Christian McCaffrey was on that team.
Do you remember was the 4 QB a misclick?
No, I did it on purpose. And
You're sick.
I didn't do it a ton on Underdog, but I did it somewhat on DraftKings because I was like, okay, if like if you're going to take 4, like literally the quarterbacks were like 15, 16, 17, 18. Like I would just like queue up every quarterback that started and like leave the draft. And they were all like, it was like Zach Wilson, Big Ben, Derek Carr, and Matt Ryan. Like, and literally none of them scored more than like 10 points or something. So I
you probably always got 15 from one of them each week.
That was like, I was like, okay, well, because my lesson from 2020 was I had a lot more cheap quarterback teams, and it was like I had Derek Carr and I had like Matt Stafford, and both were like injured, and like they just got crushed by like the Josh Allen, Kyler teams. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to do that again, like I'm going to have a lot of them. I don't think 4 quarterbacks that great in 18 rounds. I think in 20 it's actually totally fine if you want to do it.
Yeah. Let's do one more strategy question, and then we can I want to rip off a playoff draft with you. Leland asked here, what do you think of early tight end for next year versus mid to late, given how much Andrews advanced? And I want to hear Liam's thoughts. I would just say I'd be a little careful about reading into the Andrews stuff specifically so much of how that played out. Like, he wasn't a league winner until Lamar went down and Huntley, unlocked him. And so to me, there's a lot of survivorship bias in the Mark Andrews analysis, but curious on what you think about tight end on the whole.
Yeah, I mean, this is things I need to like think more about to like give a strong answer. I can answer this question, but like a lot of these, like as Pete said, I'd be really careful of taking any sweeping takeaways from even anything I'm saying or did, or any results you're seeing, because I mean, as we know, football is not that random of a sport. So if you won, you were going to win always. And, no, I'm joking about that. It's super random, but I'm just curious what round are these tight ends going to go in? Like, if you're telling me if Kelce is I was kind of low on Kelce this year. I had like 10% of him just because I didn't want him to crush me, but I was worried that he was old, and I couldn't really find a lot of data on what happens to aging tight ends. And if Lamar's playing, Andrews probably doesn't have those huge weeks And so I'm just curious what price are these, like, the elite guys going to be versus like a Fant Gesicki, Dawson Knox type guy. And if they're like, if you're telling me Kelsey's in the first, I'm probably not going to have a ton of him. If Mark Andrews is in like the first or second, I'm not going to have a ton of him. If they're in like the third, no, maybe I will. But I just think it's so hard to even think about. I think the sites are going to set their rankings, and that's going to begin average draft position to begin. And then someone's going to make content about something, and everything's going to change so wildly next year.
Yeah, and I mean the thing, like we were just talking about it, how it pertained to the finals, about how in week 17 we were trying to find, was there going to be a tight end that separated? And you mentioned the elite quarterbacks. Like there are weeks where Josh Allen or Kyler at the beginning of the season would drop 40. And that is a massive separation gap from all the other quarterbacks who are scoring 25 that week. At tight end, that's the whole conversation, right? Do we have elite tight ends that can actually separate? And we've had it at moments in the past, or moments a specific week for Kittle where we've seen it, and Mark Andrews strung together 3 weeks. But it's this hard thing where the draft capital on a 5th, 6th round Mark Andrews, that's not going to burn you if he's just, middling and then has the upside late. But if you're paying a first round cost for that, that is going to sink you. Like, I don't think if Mark Andrews was a first round pick this year, even if he went off when he did, I don't know how many teams would have had him.
Well, you even saw it the year before because Mark Andrews was in the third and he had terrible advance rates.
Yeah.
It didn't have that much difference of a season. And for tight end on half point PPR, it's really all about, did you fall in the end zone or not? Because we saw that with Fant, and he's tight end 1.
Yeah. It's interesting too. Yeah. Thinking, through the Andrew stuff, I actually just forgot what I was going to say. I lost my thought, but tight end will definitely be interesting this year. And I'll be curious to see how many of these guys. I'm guessing we're going to see an overall correction, and maybe a correction too much. Oh, I remembered what I was going to say. There are scenarios too where on Bime for an Ice team, we had Kyle Pitts, and I still think the thesis of that pick made sense, where there are realities where he has the Jamar Chase-esque game or the 35-point Mark Andrews game down the playoff stretch. Obviously, the run out for the quarterback play, the offense and stuff was awful, but like you can see why taking stabs on players like that. Noah Fant, who is on your team, like he's considered one of the most talented athletic tight ends in the league. If things break right for him, he does have that potential. So that idea of at least making bets on tight ends who can do that, I think still holds true.
I had a ton of Pitts because I was just like, this guy could, and that's why I was underweight on players like Cup. Is because I was just like, you know what, he could do it. And I mean, this isn't really a secret. I'm sure it's something not everyone knows about, but like being an elite athlete is super important to be a good tight end in the NFL.
Yeah.
And so find those guys, and like Fant is elite, Gesicki's elite. Like these are why I was on these type of guys.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And again, that's why best ball is so fun, because there's all these, we're talking about individual players on their teams. Which guy from the backfield do you take? We're talking about macro constructions. We're talking about playoff correlations. Now we're talking about prospect profiles and historical trends for what kind of players break out like that. It's a multi-layered puzzle. And I think that's what makes it so fun. And speaking of multi-layered puzzles, how many of these playoff best ball drafts have you done? You've been burning through that balance?
So I'm only doing gauntlets. And I did like maybe 20, and maybe I've done like a couple more since then. So I've been doing quite a bit of gauntlets. I've done none of the mittens. I've done none of the big mitten. And, like the buy-in to payout ratio is important to me. So
yeah,
I wouldn't like, maybe I'd do 1 or 2 big mittens.
Yeah.
And I kind of like, some people don't like the 1 out of 6 advance rate. I think it kind of is actually interesting. It's totally different. How about you?
Yeah, I've been splitting, like when the mitten filled. If I'm doing shows, maybe hop in a mitten. I'm slowly gearing up. I feel like
I'll do either if you want on stream, but mitten or gauntlet, whatever.
Let's hop in a gauntlet right now. I just clicked it for us.
All right. And my approach for this is, of course, high variance. what I've personally been doing is pretty much just choosing Buffalo to win the Super Bowl and just
No, that doesn't. You choosing Buffalo to
I
do
know, I
well?
know.
That
This is a
doesn't sound
shock.
like you,
No,
Liam.
but I mean, like, this sounds like it's a high variance contest, so
Yeah.
it's fine to just choose one team and like, you can't diversify yourself
No,
to
I
win
want
it.
I want the full Liam experience with this draft. In the comfort of my own home under the covers, I can fade the Bills. But when I'm on stream with Liam, you better believe we're super stacking the Bills. And we actually got a good draft slot to do that as well.
Yeah, we did. And that's the other thing is I have a ton of 5, 4, 5, 6 spots and not like out of my set of 20, like almost none, 1 or 2. So it kind of became easy.
Here you go. Deal or no deal. What percentage of your million would you just light on fire if it meant the Bills could win the Super Bowl?
Well, of course, I'm just going to place the million on the Bills winning the Super Bowl. So I don't need that question at all.
I just assume you're always leveraged long on Bills futures.
And how I'm kind of doing it is with these gauntlet drafts, like, because I don't live in I don't think Florida you can sports bet quite yet. Like Seminole Hard Rock just rolled something out, and then they said you're not allowed to deposit money anymore. So I don't know what's going on there. I'll have to take a look.
That's right.
It ride. Let it ride. Yeah, 10-1.
There you go. Also, yeah, if you guys haven't gotten signed up on Underdog Fantasy, you can get a $100 deposit match with promo code Pete. That'll get you into 4 of these gauntlet drafts, $1 million in prizes. These are going to be absolutely ripping here over the next week and a half or so until the playoffs start. $5 buy-in ones, $25, and the big mittens, what, $250?
Yeah. Make sure you do promo code Pete. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Liam knows how to do content. He gets
this
it.
man just crushed a stream, and he just does another one back to back. Like, how often do you go back to back to back streams like this?
I have like 3 or 4 days a week where I do at least 3 streams.
So the question is, are people going? So of course we're taking digs here.
Yes, of course we are.
And,
imagine fading Diggs on a stream with Liam.
And I mean, Hawker should take Kelsey Mahomes.
You would think, unless he just wants to watch the world burn.
Jonathan Taylor's ADP doesn't make sense to me.
In which direction?
Too expensive. Let's take Josh Allen. I think like the Colts. I mean, A, they're not even a lock to make the playoffs. B, I just think. I mean, this year has changed things with like running teams actually having a chance, especially in bad weather. But like, I just think they're so. I mean, you could need him to advance out of round 1 if he like has a big game. But
to me, the argument I think I actually tend to more agree with you, but I guess the counter would be there are so few bell cow running backs that have the potential to put up 30 plus. And so if you got 2 30 plus games from Jonathan Taylor, that's going to be pretty hard for other rosters to keep up with.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And this was something Eric was actually talking about in his Discord, which he like totally disagreed with that. I don't think it's unrealistic that could like he just crushes so much. But his point was really just like, well, if the rest of your roster does good, who cares? And like, yeah, I agree and disagree with that. What are your favorite NFC teams? Who have you been targeting the most?
I end up with a ton of 49ers, I feel like, and then Cardinals would probably be my second, just because they're easy to backdoor stack.
Yeah. 49ers are interesting because they are a higher seed than the Eagles, but the Eagles have clinched and the 49ers have not. And the 49ers play the Rams. So they could easily lose that game. I got a lot of Cowboys myself. I think that's kind of like a chalky way to go, though.
Yeah, and it's a little harder just because those guys, the pieces you really want tend to go a little earlier. All right, we're on the clock here. What direction do you want to take this?
So I'll let you choose. I would personally either take Aaron Jones or Elliott.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm kind of surprised Aaron Jones. I mean, this seems a little.
He drops here in the gauntlet. He's very
okay.
Like, he even sometimes comes around.
Yeah, so I like grabbing Aaron Jones here. I also think on this team, Singletary also would make a ton of sense.
He does. So me personally, like, you know me, I like to draft early, and like if I get Singletary was literally going
Oh
in
yeah.
the like pick 58, like not even drafted early on. So I don't have a ton of him yet, but um,
We
I
could
want to see what
also wait and see, if because we're kind of cornering the market on early bills, if someone would let him slip
I want to
another
see what
round.
Hawk does here before I say who I would take.
Yeah. Now
Looks like he's doing Bucks, which like that makes sense for
it's too
him.
bad Chase went because then we could just essentially draft your BBM2 winning
Yeah,
team.
yeah. Where's Amon-Ra?
Yeah. Yeah. Put him in the player pool, Underdog. Yeah. What
Okay,
do you
so
want to do?
I would take Elliott here because we need the running back points round one, and now we're setting up Green Bay and Dallas, and like Green Bay's secondary pieces are crazy cheap, and I don't even think like the MBS, the Lazards, like even like whoever the hell their tight end is, Josiah or something like that.
Yeah, and I would say now in this construction, Singletary obviously can be a luxury pick if he falls, but now he's not a necessity because we're going to play for either Bills versus Packers or Cowboys Super Bowl, and we'd get the running back points already.
Yeah, I would definitely take Singletary if we can get him, but I would not take him the next time we pick. Probably,
Yeah,
I would prioritize the other guys.
yeah.
Um,
What other
but- but-
AFC teams have you been liking once you get past your Bills love?
so I had some Chargers teams early on, just like one or two, just in case, like just so I have a sweat. But and I have like maybe I don't even think I have one Mahomes team, so I think I've really just like like Josh Allen's probably on like 95% of my teams the way it's just worked out.
Yeah,
Because early on in the gauntlet, you could get Josh Allen where we took Jones.
right.
And Leonard Fournette was a first round pick, and Tom Brady was a first round pick.
I should have known Zurich with this team was going to take Singletary. This has to be one of the weirdest teams I've seen.
A lot of people like I think playoffs is fascinating because you look at them and like some people are just drafting dead teams to my take, or dead to win it all.
It definitely, yeah. I mean, this team could certainly advance, but yeah, I mean, there's no like, what's your Super Bowl stack with this team? Like, what Super Bowl are you playing for through 5 rounds?
Yeah, having the three NFC guys is just egregious. Like clear, like three different, like Devontae, Tom, and Stafford. I'm never doing that. And if that's what it takes to win, okay, congrats.
GG, GG.
Yeah.
We'll pack it up. All right. So this is going to be an interesting spot for us as far as
Go with the flex position.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, is this?
no one who goes great with us? Who are you leaning? So I could either try double tap Rams here and even add a third NFC team.
Yeah.
Like Michelle and
Because we could
Odell.
basically go 4-2-2 with Bills as our 4.
Do you want to do Michelle over Odell, or do you like Odell first? Because
Let's do Odell first, just based on
Who's Hawks running
ADP.
back?
And I think he's going to go with a buck.
He needs a running back. So I guess he should take Clyde, and the Chiefs no longer getting the first round bye is fascinating too.
Yeah,
That's like so it was easier to fade them when they weren't. I was just like, well, screw it. But
I do kind of like. He goes Darrell. That works.
how are you viewing the Rams running back room?
So I mean, this Akers stuff is real interesting. It's
all
real
my
interesting.
DraftKings teams on Best Ball had Akers left, so I was like, oh my god, am I gonna get
him back?
Yeah.
I'm always generally like a more big believer, and I think like just momentum and betting against injury return. So I'm still team Sony, but
I'm team Sony too. You could get him late, but I'm for taking him right now, and then we'll just take like whatever, like the Dalton Schultzes, the MVSs, and whoever the hell we want on Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty set up here for a 4 Buffalo, 2 Green Bay, 2 Dallas, 2 Los Angeles. Do you agree?
Yeah. Can you show me how many? Can you scroll down? I forget how many rounds this is.
We have 10, so we have
10?
4 more picks. So
Okay,
we need
so
2 more Bills, 1 more Dallas, 1 more Green Bay.
cool. And like the Green Bay guy, I might wait on. So who's incentivized to take Buffalo players right now? Really, it should be no one. Like maybe the Singletary guy.
Yeah, the Singletary guy is a complete wild card.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and like if you have an auto drafter enter, like which it's potential, like he's just like this Zera guy has been auto drafting, that totally throws everything for a loop too. Okay, so he's definitely not. He's targeting. He drafted Knox there.
Liam won't even mention this guy's name because he's too terrified that someone might snipe him.
Who?
Who? No, I have no idea. It could be anyone.
Well, that's the other. It's hard to guess how it's going to play out with the Buffalo wideouts in the playoffs because
Yeah.
the coaching staff has shown like a real, like if Sanders is fully healthy, would it shock me if they put Davis back on the bench? No. Do I think they should? Absolutely not. But
Right. I'm with you. I would just hope that the coaching staff has just seen enough for what Gabe Davis brings to the office compared to Sanders. But you're right. Their stubbornness.
they've tried to sign Emmanuel Sanders since 2015. Like every year, they've tried to sign him. So, all right, what's our players looking like?
So Schultz is definitely in play.
Schultz would be my pick.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense.
Because like he flat out might be the number one pass catcher, if not the maybe the number two at worst.
Right.
He's just like crushing.
The other thing we could consider is if we did end up wanting to play Aaron Jones as a one-off and go with 3 Rams and grab Van Jefferson would be the only other kind of
We
consideration.
could totally do that because like Green Bay is a weird offense where they really just run the ball at a high clip, and like it's not like MVS or Lazard would have dream matchups against Buffalo in the Super Bowl.
Here's the risk though. If we let Gabe Davis back to that other guy, he's probably going to
I think we take Davis here. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to have Liam on the stream and take Van Jefferson over fucking Gabe Davis.
And I've been sniped on him so many times, so we got to take the brand guy, Got to make a stand somewhere. I like this team a lot. This is mainly how I've been building my teams too.
Oh, wow. Noted Patriots homer in here coming to talk shit about your Bills.
That's funny. As long as we're not playing an absolute hurricane, I like our chances.
Did you see the guy who won the FFPC season-long contest?
Bills.
Go Bills. It's like all these Leone's crushing it this year. It's just like all you Bills homers are having the year of your
Buffalo,
life.
baby. And you know what else is funny is I emailed Underdog and I asked before the start of the season, I was like, hey, wondering if I'm allowed to change my username. With the reason being is I didn't I just thought people would like spite draft Bills players because they saw my name. And like Rudman was like, no, sorry, we're not allowed to do that. Like you've done too many drafts. Like I was like, okay, well, like I'd accept Go Patriots even. Like take Cam Newton from me, go for it.
Please let this man change his name to Go Patriots.
Yeah. You're a Patriots fan, right?
No, come on.
Who's your hometown team?
I grew up in Denver, and then fantasy ruined me.
Yeah. So I try really hard to not let that happen to the Bills.
I would say you failed.
I don't think so. Okay, look.
All right, so we're good on. We could go. We need another Bills. Who's going to be our fourth Bills?
Who's left for Green Bay right now?
Be quick. Should I just get Sanders in the queue, or do we want to go like McKenzie or Zach Moss in the queue?
I would put take either is fine with me. Here's what I'm going to say about McKenzie, and I think Buffalo's going to.
Should we do Lazard? Do you want to get Lazard for Green Bay?
I defer to you. I don't really care about Lazard.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see who else. I don't think we have any other good Green Bay options.
Okay, so let's say this. I believe Buffalo does this. When they face man defense, McKenzie will get more snaps than Beasley. And when they face zone, Beasley will get more. I think that's what they're going to do. I don't know about Sanders what's going on there. So I'm totally fine with taking Sanders. I've just like I have no strong read here. I've been differentiating them. So either one is cool with me.
I need the boots on the ground take. I mean, Willis was asking for it. You're gonna pick Sanders or McKenzie.
I just told you my boots on the ground. So who does Dallas and Green Bay and the Rams? So they play man or zone more.
Oh fuck if I know, Liam.
Let's take old man Sanders. Come on.
All right, we did it. Yeah.
And that's kind of we're protecting ourselves a bit with the Davis if they kind of ping pong each other.
The only other thing we could have done, because I had mentioned, I mean, we could have also taken like Cedric Wilson over Lazard probably if we wanted to go with just the one off Aaron Jones, which I know I had just brought up.
I would probably do that more than Lazard, just because like it helps you in the first round more. True. And B, like there's a large percent of the playoffs where Lazard doesn't score over like 2 points every game, even if Green Bay makes the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. I'd probably want that one back. I should have just gotten our receiver first to buy us some more time. But I would still say this is a very Liam team here.
Yeah, and I like this team. You know, like we got 3 heavy hitters in the NFC. We got the strength to carry Green Bay through the first round. And we have the Bills who are winning the Super Bowl.
That's right. That is right. Well, every time I do one of these, I get more and more addicted to want to do more of these. But Liam, it was great bringing you back in. You know, we DFS, you know, took over here in the season. We haven't been able to do our chess stream, so to get the band back together here was awesome.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much for having me on. Honestly, surreal. You know, like it was like 5 months ago when I reached out to you, just like, hey man, I think it should be great for like the off season, like help you get some content together. And, you know, now we're full circle.
I know, dude. I'm so stoked for you. It's like, it's so fun. You know, there's 160 teams in that final. You know, I probably know, I don't know, 10 to 15 recognize, you know, names in there. And so to have you of all the teams be up there on the leaderboard, I am very grateful. It was you and not some anon. You know, I had to be able to bring my chess coach on to talk about his $1 million win.
And it's just better for the sport of best ball for whoever wins it to get out there and, you know, like talk about it and be friendly, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Underdog's in good hands. They had Herzig ship the inaugural. We got Chess Liam taking it down.
And I know that Herzig and I live in the same city, right?
St. Petersburg, right?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Best ball capital of the world.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That they need to change their slogan.
That's right. I'm gonna have to move. You know, Boston is the best ball top 10 finish of the world, and it just doesn't have quite the same ring to it.
All right, guys, hit that like and subscribe button. Pete and I will be doing plenty of shows over the summer, and
is there anywhere else that people can keep an eye out for you in the meantime?
For now, just follow me on Twitter. Any questions you have, guys, let me know. I'm in Pete's Discord, of course. You can ask me there as well. And I don't know. I don't know. I need to form a plan. You know, this whole week's been a whirlwind, and I'm sure it will be for some time. So I'm debating getting more into the content side because it's enjoyable, you know, and I get to interact with cool people like you.
Well, I appreciate that. I have a feeling that we are going to have a very fun summer of best ball ahead of us here in 2022. Shout out Underdog for being the best ball platform. We love you over at Underdog. I will see you guys tomorrow at noon where Best Ball Pete turns into Cash Game Grinder Pete. I will be on with Derek Carty for Chess Liam, aka Liam Murphy, aka your $1,000,000 and one champ. We'll see you guys next time.